70-80% of the hacks or attacks come from within the organization. They don't really come from the outside.
Like 85% of the cyber attacks in 2025, they already exist in the software before it was deployed.
When security teams are engaged, that is pretty much at the end, when the application has been packaged, tested, and you're like, okay, it's ready for deployment.
And then does it mean like QA is missing before the security, before had the chance to find it? So welcome back, and today I want to talk about cybersecurity because it seems like right now cybersecurity threat is also a QA problem because of like AI coding or like a lot of different trends right now. So what I want to ask you is that I know statistics is like 85% of the cyber attacks in 2025, they already exist in the software before it was deployed. And if that is true, and what does it mean for QA teams? And then does it mean like QA is missing before the security, before had the chance to find it, or what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. The way coding is now, programming is changing. I think it becomes more and more critical for testing teams to not just look at security as an afterthought for the security teams themselves, right? So for example, if you do code review as part of your testing activity, what you can do is identify some of the patterns in the code itself which are not compliant or not compliant to the security standards. And like anybody can download those standards like OS plan standards and see, okay, what is working and what is not working. And in that sense, it becomes more and more important because when typically when security teams are engaged, that is pretty much at the end, when the application has been packaged, tested, and you're like, okay, it's ready for deployment. And that's when the security teams come in and they say, oh, we need to run our own scans. And I think it's about now, can testing teams identify some of those security flaws which are going to be found later? Because again, that is a very delayed process, and that also means that your product or project will be pushed out a bit more. So definitely the testing teams need to look at security as part of their testing activities, and they can look at it from different angles. They can talk about the black box level, or they can get inside the code and look at the code or do code audit based on the certain standards, be it the programming standards or the security standards, and then combine a holistic approach of quality engineering towards that project or towards that application itself.
We are providing the service in the intersection of QA and also cybersecurity. And in the past 16 years, have you ever worked with a client that is only using you for the QA or like only using you for the cybersecurity? And then in the end, they just combine both servers and then do it with you? Because what's the difference between having two firms doing this separately and have one firm under one roof?
Problem in using one firm for these two things typically is about the neutrality on the independence. So CTOs or the CIOs typically think that it's better for them if they have an independent company which is doing testing for pen testing or security audit for their products, and then have another company which is doing testing for them. But we have definitely seen cases where the customers have used us for one or the other, and they have added the second thing into our portfolio. That has happened, of course. But typically they all start with this mindset that, okay, we specialize as more on the QA side. So let's start with QA, and then they will bring security side into the conversation.
So like, does it mean like when the client come to us and ask for QA process, but we have a deep knowledge in cybersecurity, which put us in a different position compared to other QA firms?
Yes. So, I mean, look, cybersecurity or even testing for that matter is not about providing people, actually. It's about the process engineering, the quality engineering itself. So quality has security as part of the conversation all the time. I mean, you cannot release an application till the quality standard of that application is met, which is not just the functionality or the speed of the application or the reliability of that application. It's also the security of that application. So quality as an umbrella is slightly more wider than people anticipate it to be. So in that case, it becomes extremely critical to have some sort of interaction between the security and the testing as a process for application to be reliable enough.
And is there a conversation between like CISO and QA leadership be having the most in most of the organization or the government or like institution, and they haven't even started yet?
I take that, or I believe that security and quality is a cross-industry, cross-organization responsibility. it is not a responsibility of one department. I mean, for example, if you're a CISO, and you have done all of these trainings of your employees on, for example, best security practices, and you want to everybody to be trained on, but then you have one employee who is writing all the passwords on the notepad, for example, right, and leaving it on his desk, on her desk. Well, your security is out of the window right away. Because also remember, like 70-80% of the hacks or attacks come from within the organization. They don't really come from the outside. It's because they come from inside the organization. They're all employees as well. And hence my comment earlier that quality or security, they both are responsibility of everybody in the organization. They are not just a responsibility of a department. And I think in that sense, CISOs and the CIOs and the QA leaders, they definitely talk to each other, and they should definitely talk to each other. And they should find out the mechanisms or the processes through which they can ensure the applications are not just only robust, reliable, but also they are secure for their internal users or their external users.
So the average cost of data breach globally for organization in average is like 5 million in general. And
Yeah.
like the majority of those breaches began with like software defects, and probably they can actually catch it a month earlier, right? Like if they can align the QA team and then the security team, if these firms or like whoever is watching right now, they are not in talk with us, how would you suggest them to do some checklist thing for them internally in terms of the things you just mentioned, and also some other things they can do for evaluation?
Yeah. So, I mean, like the simplest test is that you can ask if you're a CISO, you can also ask your QA team to do some basic level of testing at the code level as well, right? Now, I understand a lot of QA teams will not have this capacity, but again, then that becomes the responsibility of QA manager or QA leader to create that kind of skill set in the department.